Well, good afternoon, everyone. So today we have with us Brent Cooper, who is the president and CEO of the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, a great membership group in our region. And your members are feeling the impact of this pandemic, Brent. And so I want to just jump in and let you update us on what are you hearing from the questions you're getting from membership and about businesses in Northern Kentucky?
Yeah, thanks, Judge Knochelmann. Thanks for having me on. We have over 1,600 members today at the Northern Kentucky Chamber. And I've been saying for a while now, this was a comment from one of our members, Mike at City, that said, look, we're all weathering this storm together, but we're not all in the same boat. There are people that are sinking. There are some people that are getting through it. Our challenge and our charge is to try to get everybody through it as much as possible. What we're hearing mostly is frustration on getting funding, on finding the assistance. And there are some people that we're seeing that aren't aware of the funding that's available to them. And so we've been trying to communicate with as many businesses as possible to let them know what resources available from the CARES Act, the PPP, the SBA loans, and the unemployment resources for their employees. And so that's a lot of what the Chamber's been doing these days is communication.
And I guess the connections and communication that you're doing, reality is you're helping out members as well as non-members, right?
Yeah, that's right. Again, we're all weathering the storm together, and the mission of the Chamber is to promote business growth and an improved economy. We need everybody, members and non-members. We're hoping people will be a part of the Chamber, but regardless, we're helping everybody through this as much as possible.
So, what's the feel you have of businesses there in terms of those that are on the edge of not coming back or have been closed down because they're not considered essential, or and we now, I think, have been hearing about a 13% unemployment rate right now, which is, I guess, over 4 times the number that it was just a few months ago. What are you seeing from membership there in terms of their ability to sustain themselves and stay in business?
Well, the good news is we're now starting to see that flood of funding come through. I've been saying there's a flood coming, but it's going through like a 10-inch pipe as we have to deal with all the different aspects of it. But we are seeing it come through. I'm hearing more and more about the SBA grants that are coming through, the EIDL loans through the SBA, and also the PPP funding. I talked to one local bank this morning. All of their initial folks that had received an E-Tran number have now been funded on this particular bank. That's great news. But there's a whole lot more that still haven't. And so from those, we're still hearing, the concerns, the desperation. But as they start to see that funding, you kind of hear the change in their voice. They realize they've got a lifeline to help start to get them through. But we are constantly communicating with our federal delegation and our state officials on what they can do to help businesses get through this. We've been saying all along, businesses want things to be fair and simple and predictable. And the more that the government agencies can help folks through that, with that lens, I think the better off we'll all be. We were on the phone with the federal delegation this morning and talked about those concerns from those businesses. And so we've been really grateful to Senator McConnell's office in particular for helping us navigate these waters.
And one of the things that you speak to it, I mean, every business, most businesses have at least one employee, if not hundreds, if not more. There are unemployment issues that are going on. What's workforce in general? I mean, the Grow NKY effort over the past couple of years has been big, but that has to pivot, I guess. So maybe speak to that a little bit.
Well, we're doing everything remotely right now, even the unemployment offices. But I think laying that groundwork for the growing regional outcomes through workforce, Grow NKY, because we have that in Northern Kentucky, we've done a great job working together. I know you had Dr. Sadler on yesterday, and she talked about how Northern Kentucky all works together. It's the same at the Chamber with all the different business groups and the Workforce Investment Board, the unemployment office, the Career Center in Northern Kentucky, as well as all the various nonprofits that are involved with Grow NKY. And that's really helped us because we've been able to connect employers that are still hiring with folks that are unemployed, as well as communicate with those businesses to make sure that, hey, if you are operational, these are the things you need to do. And for those that are going to become operational, what do they need to do to become operational over the coming weeks and months? And as you know, that's been a moving target. We've been getting different direction almost daily from the state and local health officials on what we need to do.
So speak to the issue of a business that's struggling right now. I mean, you've probably got some stories in it without names, of course, but can you share for those of us who might be watching this, maybe a story about maybe either a success story or a challenge that you're seeing out there from a business in the community?
Yeah, I've got stories of both. I'll start with the bad. I've talked to several businesses, even in the last couple of days, where they've applied, but they haven't yet got the funding yet. And we've got some that have applied that don't even have an E-Tran number yet, which means they're not sure they're going to get funded. And those are heartbreaking. And so we've been trying to find ways to get them through it. That's part of what the Northern Kentucky Restaurant Relief Fund was about. That there was a partnership with Triad and the Horizon Funds to try to get businesses cash now, because again, that cash is coming, but it's going to take a while to get through. On the flip side, businesses that have received that funding, their PPP loan or the SBA loans, I talked to one local hotel owner last weekend, and they were able to receive that money. That will get them through and their employees through. Some of these places have furloughed employees, so they initially let them go before the CARES Act came out. The CARES Act will allow them to hire them back. And so when you hear those stories that they got the PPP loan, they're starting to bring employees back, you can see it in their faces as we're doing video calls, or hear it in their voice as we talk on the phone, the sense of relief, and that, hey, maybe we can get through this over the course of time. But it's just dealing with all the uncertainty, and that's, we're all weathering the storm together. The chamber too. I mean, we went from having major events to doing virtual events, and that's changed our operation as well. So, and you and I are both small business owners, so we get it. We see that perspective, and I think that's really helped people along the way to be able to talk to other business owners and come up with ways to stay alive and stay in business.
And I know you talk to chambers across the state, especially, and then across the nation. Give us a sense of how are we comparing in the business community to some other areas? Do you get a sense of that at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's roughly 7,000 chambers of commerce in the United States. Our chamber is part of a top group of 100 chambers. We're actually, our metro chamber with 1,600 members. We're right there with Lexington and Louisville, and we work very well with the State Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Cincinnati, Greater Cincinnati USA Regional Chamber. As I've talked to those groups, as well as our national groups, we're faring pretty well overall. But everybody's going through the exact same thing right now. Everybody's trying to figure out ways to get businesses enough cash now to get through it. As a small business owner, this cash is king, and you've got to be able to pay people, and you got to be able to pay for product and pay for your rent and those kinds of things. If we can get people enough of a lifeline to get through this, then the flood of money will come in. We'll get some back. We'll get back to some semblance of normalcy, and we'll be able to operate again. That's what chambers of commerce all around the country are trying to figure out, ways to help the most. Our biggest priority is communication, just like this video. And I thank you for doing these, because I think they've been wonderful. These kinds of things are ways to explain to people what's available and what's going on in the community. So that's what the chamber's been trying to do most, is communication.
So you're typically a very positive person. Let's end on that. What's your vision as you come out of this thing? And
well, it's that same message you've heard before. We will get through this. History tells us this. I've owned a business for over 20 years. I've lived through Y2K, 9/11, the 2008, recession, and now this. What I have found is we're all in the people business. And if we find ways to keep people, retain people, invest in our businesses during this downtime, invest in ourselves, those that are able to do that and weather the storm will come out of this stronger. This will end. We will get back to some semblance of normalcy fairly soon. In terms of regular operations, in terms of, we're all going to wear masks. There's a new normal for the time being until a vaccine eventually comes out. But we will get back to some semblance of normalcy. And then eventually there'll be a vaccine, and we'll be right back going gangbusters. I know you had CVG on, Candace McGraw talking about the impact of the airport. I think our airport is poised to come out of this stronger than a lot of places around the country, because half our flights are cargo flights. And those are booming right now. And so when we get back to some semblance of normalcy, we're going to see more and more that the airport, our airport, is poised to come out strong. And that will help tourism eventually and help us get back to being booming where we were. Look, Northern Kentucky has been strong in the past. We're going to be strong again. And that's our positive message out to people. Look to history, stay positive, and we will get through this.
Well, Brent, I think you've said it perfectly, and we're going to let it end on that. But I appreciate the time and all the energy and work you put on behalf of the region. So thanks so much.
Thank you.